I'm assuming we're going to have more people popping in because we had like 80 people signed up for this. So I think you set a record.
Good. We're all motivated. Good way to
I
start.
know.
I like
New
it.
year, new motivation. Got it. Also, I am going to drop the link in case you missed it into the chat. That is the link for the goal setting workshop, like worksheet, if you want to use it. I am going to turn this over to Lynn and I'm going to share my screen and hope that this works.
I think that works. Yeah, that should work.
Okay, perfect.
Awesome. If we haven't met at a past Emerge event, my name is Lynn Pernell. If you know me, you probably know that I am a big believer in the power of goal setting. This is my favorite topic, my favorite little ritual to do every January. And I'm excited that we're all going to be doing this together. I think actually carving out the time to go sit through and go through this whole process is the biggest driver of success, whether you'll actually achieve your goals or not. And it's even better if you can do it in a group setting, especially one like this, where you're with like-minded peers. I know last year we had so many great conversations. You leave not feeling not alone for once in your business. And it's great to be able to bounce ideas off of each other. So it should be really great. All right. So the main tenets that we're going to go through together as a group are reflecting and analyzing, soul searching and brainstorming, formulating goals, and then prioritizing and taking action. So before we start thinking about the year ahead, I think it's always really important to start by thinking about the previous year. So whatever you can do to help yourself reflect on what actually happened throughout the past year. I don't know about you guys, but my concept of time sometimes is really wonky. So I will completely forget what actually happened this year or like 2 years ago or a month ago. So what I like to do, do whatever works for you, but what works for best for me is to go to the very beginning of the year in my Google Calendar. I'm the type of person that puts everything in my calendar, so that's a really good way to remind myself what actually happened throughout the year. And then I also like to just scroll through the beginning of the year in my camera roll and then my Instagram. That's where I post most of my life and business highlights. And then you can also ask family and friends like, "Hey, what do you remember as the highs and lows of my year?" Without fail, every year there's always one major thing that happened throughout that year that I just completely forget about. I think most of you are probably on the same page as me. We tend to be like high achievers, very motivated, driven, very to-do list oriented. I'm an Enneagram type 3, so I'm all about like checking things off and moving on to the next one. But I think that's kind of a shame. I think sometimes as soon as we get something done, we just cross it off and completely forget about it. And that's not really fair to ourselves. We want to take some time to really like pay some reverence to what we did, be proud of ourselves, be grateful for what we have in the present rather than just constantly moving on to the next thing. And it's good to think about the future, but I think it's also really important to be proud of ourselves and grateful for what we already have in the present moment. So after this call, I encourage all of you to just really thoroughly do a really thorough walk down memory lane, refresh your memory on both the highs and lows of what happened throughout the year. And then there's a sheet for you to write down all of I like to start with the positives. So I like to start with the wins. So any goals that you met or exceeded, and then also just any unexpected wins. So this can be anything positive that happened to you. It doesn't have to be something that you even, made happen, just anything you're really proud of and like the best things that happened throughout the year, any great memories you have from the year. So if you have the workbook in front of you, you can feel free to jot it down. But even if you don't, this is what we're going to discuss in the first breakout room. And then we'll all meet back in the main room and we'll kind of discuss. So as you're talking to your partner, go ahead and share whatever you're most proud of, most grateful for. And as you're doing that, also ask yourself, why do you think you were able to achieve those goals? So was it maybe you were really diligent about it? Maybe you were really consistent? Whatever you think the secret sauce was for you achieving it, make sure you write that down because that's one, really valuable insight. And then two, you can replicate whatever those positive traits were in the upcoming year. Or maybe you used a specific resource or a specific person helped you. Also really important to write that down so that you can maybe use that resource or reach out again in the following year. So in a second, Sarah's gonna break you out into the rooms. Just click that little notification when you get it, and then we will regroup.
How was that for everybody? Does anybody have any like super big wins or want to nominate their partner for a big win?
What was the question?
I want to nominate Stephanie, who I just spoke with. She has an awesome win.
All right, Stephanie, go.
Hey, yeah, mine is pretty big. I'm an event artist. I do guest portraits, branching out into illustration or illustrated invitations and stationery as well. But at the end of last year, I quit my day job. So very
Wow.
exciting. Also
Yay!
joined the bird
That's
in the last
exciting.
year too. So after doing art for weddings for a couple of years, I got to the point where I was ready to take the leap.
I love that. Congratulations on that. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Lindsay, did you have one?
I was just going to say, I was going to nominate Serena and congratulate her on 10 years of business.
Love that. Congratulations, Serena.
You too.
Anybody else have a really big win that they want to share or nominate their partner? Sometimes that works better. Maria?
I'd love to nominate Amber. She had a goal of just taking full service clients. And not only did she do it, but she got booked out. So she had to turn them away. So
Love that.
congratulations to her.
Yeah. I'll let Lynn, I don't know, it was like, where does she go on my screen? Lynn continue here.
All right, sounds good. All right, well, I hate to be the Debbie Downer, but we also want to be fair with ourselves. So of course, I like to start with the wins, but then it is important to also take time and think about any areas that we kind of fell short last year. So any goals that we didn't achieve or didn't quite achieve. And then more broadly, you can also just think about any negatives from the past year that you don't want to carry over. So just anything that didn't serve you, any like thoughts, emotions, just attitudes that you want to be mindful to leave behind. You can write those down on this space. And then for each of those shortfalls, ask yourself these 3 questions. So first, why not? Why did you not achieve it? So was it due to internal or external reasons? Was it something like your habits or mindset, or just, was it yourself? Was it really your own fault? Or was it external forces? So maybe it was just the economy or the industry as a whole, or just external forces out of your control. Then ask yourself if you want to carry over the goal. So sometimes you just didn't get around to it, didn't give it enough of your focus, and you want to just rinse and repeat, try it again the next year. Other times you want to amend the goal a little bit. Maybe as you were working on it, you realize like, oh, this is going to take longer, or I'm going to have to do it a little differently, or whatever the case may be. Feel free to amend it. Or maybe you realize that your path has shifted. Maybe that's just not something that's important to you anymore, or you realize it's not something that's a priority to you this year. So feel free to just drop it entirely if that's the case. And then also try to see if you can think of a silver lining for each shortfall. So maybe you didn't quite achieve it, but there was a good reason for it. Or maybe you didn't reach it, but you grew in the process. So sometimes it's more about who you become in the process of trying to achieve a goal than actually reaching the finish line. So that's going to be the topic for our next breakout. So take a minute, think about, I guess, maybe your biggest shortfall or however many you feel comfortable sharing, and then try to remember these 3 points for each shortfall.
Perfect. You have that graphic real quick, just in case there's visual people, because you're not sharing anymore. You have to reshare.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so this was the sheet in the workbook for writing down those shortfalls. And then these were the 3 talking points. So why not? Do you want to carry it over? And a silver lining.
Did anybody have anything good to share? Anything that you were like, shoot, I didn't do this, but here's my big goal? Like, say it out loud.
Maria, I nominate Maria. She did incredible.
My big goal is to expand outside of weddings, and because I know what I teach has been working for 10 years, and I know it can be used by so many other people. So that's my big goal.
Cool. All right, Lynn, take us away.
Nice.
You'll have to reshare again.
All right, can you guys see this again?
Yep, we're good.
Okay, great. All right, so now that we've done the work on looking back on the past year, now we can start thinking about the next year. But before we dive into the actual goal setting, we want to do a little bit of soul searching. So this is actually one of my favorite parts about the whole process. We want to be careful not to just live our lives on autopilot and just kind of like set knee-jerk goals of like what we think we should be writing, what everyone else's goals are. We want to actually really take the time to think about this. So there are 2 sheets in the workbook for helping you to brainstorm what your intentions actually are for the year and what you truly want for your year and by extension, your life. So there's a sheet for thinking about your values. So we all are, I know we're business owners, but we are multifaceted people, and there are lots of areas of our life that shouldn't be neglected or ignored. So we never want to just set goals. Of course, we're here to set business goals, but we want to do it with all areas of our life in mind. So on this little sheet, you can create a little pie chart of what areas of your life need the most nurturing this year. So this isn't a way to rank what's most important, because all of the categories are important. It's more about prioritizing. So every year of your life is going to be different. Your priorities are going to change year to year. We all go through different seasons of life, different phases of our business. So take some time to think about those different categories. So some examples are career, finances, family, your partner, friends, spiritual, mental, health and physical, and then hobbies and interests. So if it's an area of your life that needs your major focus this year, you can allocate a big slice of the pie to that. If it just needs some maintenance, you can do a medium slice. And then if it can go on the back burner this year, give it a small slice. And again, like, don't freak out about like making something bigger or smaller. This is only for 1 year. So we cannot prioritize everything. We have to, as hard as it is, we have to pick what we're going to focus on certain years. And then there's also this little fill in the blank Mad Lib exercise to get you thinking about your version of a successful year. So things like what you want to be doing or learning or experiencing, what you want to be surrounded by, what you want more of, less of. Hopefully this will give you an idea of what it would look like if 2026 went perfectly. So this is a little exercise called reverse remembering. And then after we're really clear on what our intentions are, what we actually want, then we can sit down to actually formulate more tangible goals. So I am totally encourage all of you to actually write down your goals. So don't just kind of like have this wishy-washy idea in your head. You want to actually write them down. You want to speak them out loud, and even better if you can share them, the more broadly, the better. So that's why it's great that you're here today. And I think one of the keys to setting yourself up for success when you're writing out your goals is to make sure that you're actually making them achievable goals to begin with. So 2 acronyms that you can help you make sure that you're setting achievable goals are SMART, S-M-A-R-T, and then DOPE, D-O-P-E. So I'll go through each of those letters with some examples. So you definitely want your goals to be specific. You don't want it to be too broad or vague. So I feel like we hear this all the time, like vague goals, like I want to get more clients and income. But what does that actually mean? So if at the end of the year, you're looking back on your year, how can you tell if you got more clients and income? You want to be way more specific. So pick some type of, make it more specific. So for instance, decide that you want to book 3 additional clients and raise your prices by 25%. That would be a more specific goal. You also want to make sure it's measurable. I hear things like this all the time too, is be better at self-care. But what does it actually mean to be better? You need some sort of KPI to attach to it. So for instance, you could say, make a chiropractor appointment after every double header. That way, at the end of the year, let's say you had 3 double headers and you made an appointment after all of them, then you achieved that goal 100%. But if you only made the appointment 2 out of those 3 times, then you achieved it 66%. So we just want to make sure that there's a way we can measure our progress and whether or not we achieved it. You also want it to be realistic. This is a little bit tricky because obviously we want to be ambitious. We want to challenge ourselves. We want to be proud of what we achieve, but you don't want it to be so outlandish that you know in your heart of hearts it's not going to happen, because there's truly no way to lie to your subconscious. Like, you know, if you write it down and you're like, all right, I'll write it, but it's not going to happen, then you're not going to put any effort into it, and then it's not going to happen. So you want to kind of find that sweet spot of it should be a reach goal, but you don't want it to be so ambitious that you don't even try. You always want to attach some type of time-based parameter to it. So just give yourself a deadline. I tend to do a lot of yearly goals just because January is when I do my goal setting every year, but you might have a different deadline in mind, or maybe like there's a certain date you need to launch or finish something by. So just make sure you're attaching a time frame to all your goals. So then for DOPE, D stands for decisive. You don't want to have any either's or or's when you're setting your goals. You want to just really put all your eggs in one basket. So for instance, if you have a goal to speak at a certain conference about a certain topic or another one about something else, if you try to achieve both of those, you're going to be spreading yourself a little thin. You want to instead just pour all of your efforts into just really refining that one signature topic and really pitching to that one conference. So you have double the chances of reaching one goal rather than half the chances of reaching two. You also want to make sure that it's your own goal, something that you feel motivated to do. So it shouldn't be something that you think someone else wants you to do, whether it's a partner or just the industry as a whole. If it's something that you feel pushed to do, your heart's not going to be in it. But if it's something that you feel pulled towards, you're way more likely to work towards it. And then positive, it should be written in the positive tense. So we might have a goal to stop something or quit something or cut back on something, which is a fine intention. But you don't want to write your goal in the negative tense, because I have a toddler right now. So I'm very well aware of how saying the word stop or no just doesn't work, because it'll plant that seed. So if I tell my son, like, no, don't drop your spoon, the first thing that's going to pop into his mind is, ooh, it would be really fun to drop this spoon and hear it clank on the floor. Same thing goes for our goals. If you have a goal to stop watching TV or stop doom scrolling at night or whatever the case may be, that might be your goal, and that's a great goal. But you want to write it in the positive tense so that every time you read the goal, you're thinking about what you're going to replace it with. So you might say, read 10 pages in a book every night. So you're not thinking about Instagram, you're not thinking about your TV shows, you're thinking about what you're going to replace it with. And then emotional. You want to attach some type of emotional qualifier to your goal. So this is a little bit nuanced, but it actually does make a really big difference. So even just something as simple as adding a little adverb to the goal of the emotion you want to feel as you're achieving the goal. So I'll use this example. This was my goal a couple years ago when I was going through a really busy season of business. I had a goal to get a massage after every doubleheader as a little treat for myself. But I noticed that every time I went to schedule it, I would kind of feel like a little bit stressed out about it, because like, oh, that's taking away an hour of my time, and like I'd feel a little guilty or stressed or whatever. And then I realized I wasn't achieving what my intention for the goal was. My intention was to relax. So if it is your intention to enjoy the massage, make sure you write that word enjoy as part of the goal. Because for instance, if my goal is just get a massage, yeah, I checked off that box. I did that. But my true intention for the goal was to enjoy those massages. So make sure you're really writing that adverb in front of the goal so how you are achieving the goal is part of whether or not you're actually achieving it. All right, so the next group share is going to be sharing your top goal for the year. And then I know you're just being put on the spot right now, but when you write about, speak your goal to your partner. If your partner's goal isn't smart and dope, see if you can kind of rework it with them. Think of a way to rephrase it or rewrite it to make it smart and dope so that they have more chances of actually achieving it.
Perfect. How are we doing, guys?
And
Really good.
It's short a
Really good.
little. Anybody want to share or nominate their partner in their room?
Most of you guys know I just moved in to San Diego from Colorado, and so one of my big goals is to definitely be able to book in California this year. I will still be plugging up the miles to come back home to Colorado, but the ultimate goal is to start booking and being client facing in California.
Yeah. Do you have any on the books yet?
No, but I
Let's
guess
put it
that I'll
out
be back
there.
in California, in Colorado too much.
Sorry, we love you here. If anybody has any clients in San Diego, send them down.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to share or nominate their friend? Nobody else has a big goal they want to share? Say it out loud, friends. Shiva, go.
I do. My goal might not be realistic, but I know it is. So my goal is I met my goal for the wedding industry, but for my other business, basically like cash flow wise, I'm looking at $250,000 this year. And this is our second year in our other business. So I know it might be scary to so many, but I know it's realistic.
Hell
Because
yeah.
I was telling Tram that the way that we did our goal setting, we started from like where we want to be 10 years from today, and then we worked it backward, and like the numbers make sense. So
That's exciting. Hopefully can make it to that $250,000. I'm sure.
I'll see you all next January, and then I'll report back.
That sounds good.
just by the way that you're saying it, I believe you. So you're saying it with the right conviction, the right manifestation attitude. That's incredible.
Hey,
And
I
it's
just
so
said it
great.
in front of 30 more people. Now I'm accountable. I have to make it happen.
both Neil and Shiva are like taking the words right out of my mouth. These are like all the right things of actually making your goals happen. We're going to touch on that in just a second. But yes,
Yeah,
literally,
but
you guys are
I-
doing all the right things.
And I believe in doing this because so my husband and I in 2021 we took off and then we went and traveled for 9 months. So of course when you go and travel and you're self-employed, you come back, you have no business, zero, right? So we had to start all no matter how much your connection you have, you lose all your connections when you leave for 9 months, right? So we came back end of November, right after Thanksgiving. And then we're like, oh shoot, we have no business, we have nothing, we have to start all over, like literally start building in 2022. We got a business coach who was based in Colorado actually. And then first thing he worked with us was this. And sadly, we didn't sit down and do a vision board, but we had one goal. We're like, hey, this is big, this is bold. But first year we're making 200, like first year literally being back and then starting this business all over again, we're making $250,000. And this was my husband's office. And then he put it like behind him and then we would see it every day. And that's all we did. We didn't even follow the coach rule to do a vision board. We just put $250,000. We made $238,000 to be exact. So, I mean, we didn't reach our goal, but then we were very close. So so I know this works. Like, and what you said, like write it down. Actually, Kevin Turdo has a video that like he just had a few days ago. I will share it in the group. And he said like, this is like research done by Harvard University that writing it down will make you closer like by 47%, something like that. So it's like, I believe in it.
Absolutely. It's so simple, but all those they seem so simple, like they seem like little hacks and little tricks, but it's like the accumulation of everything you're talking about right now that clearly is why you succeed. It's simple. We got to just do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Perfect. Anybody else want to share before we move on? Perfect. Lynn, take it away.
All right. So diving back in. All right. So before we move forward with our goals, we just want to do one more quick little audit. This one's a little more of a gut check. So we did all the auditing on how you wrote it out, all the wording, but then we also want to just make sure, do a one last little soul search. Make sure that your goals actually align with those values that you wrote on those previous pages. So we are human beings, not human doings. So yes, we care about what we do and what we get done, but what we care more about is the kind of people we're becoming in the process of doing what we do day to day. So it might be, let's say it was, you really wanted to focus on your family this year. That was like a big slice of your pie on your values sheet, but you have a really lofty like financial career goal that's going to require you to like really be a workaholic and be out of the house and working a ton this year. So those 365 days of being away from your family might not make that one day of saying, yay, I hit this financial goal worth it. So basically just before you move forward, trying to work on whatever goals you chose for yourself, just do a little gut check, ask yourself, like, do I want to be the kind of person that working on this goal will turn me into? So just ask yourself that one little question. And then as I think Shiva mentioned, as you're thinking about your current goals or like this year's goals, you might be thinking about some goals you have for the future, which is really great. You might not be ready to tackle a certain something this year, but you know that it's going to be important to you in 5, 10, however many years. So go ahead and think about that. Think about what year that goal will be important to you and then work backwards. So there might be certain like prerequisites that you need to hit before you can even start working towards those goals. So that thinking more longer into the future might give you some insight into things that you need to be doing in these upcoming years to lay the groundwork. So working backwards is always really smart. And then I always think of a million different little like side projects I want to do as I'm thinking about my major goals, which is great. Definitely jot them down, get them off your chest, out of your mind. But just keep in mind that these, if they're not your major goals, if they're not your priorities, they should be just that. They should be side projects. So when you are writing things into your calendar or choosing what you do for the day, you want to always focus on major goals first. So there's this analogy called, I think it's called the jar analogy, where if you have a selection of rocks of different sizes and you have a jar of a certain finite size, if you put the smallest rocks in first and then start putting in the larger and larger ones, they're not going to fit. It's going to overflow. But if you put in the largest rocks first and then the smaller ones and the smaller ones and the smaller ones fill in those little gaps, and then everything magically fits perfectly fine in the jar. So we want to use the same analogy when we're writing things into our calendar. We want to write all of the tasks related to our major goals first in pen, or I guess digitally. There's no such thing as that, but you want to make sure that you're keeping those commitments to yourself related to your major goals. And then if you have little bits of time here and there, you can fill in those side projects. Because if we start with the smaller side projects, it's going to monopolize our time and we won't have enough time or even just mental headspace to work on those major goals. So make sure your major goals get your first priority, side projects you can do in drips and drabs. So I always have a long, and maybe not this year, but many years, I have a long list of goals that I want to do. Again, like I said, I'm an Enneagram type 3. I'm just all about, things I want to achieve. But I constantly have to remind myself that we can do everything, but we can't do everything at once. So you want to choose what's most important to you. So I recommend narrowing it down to 2 to 5 major goals for the year. And then so that way you can just put all your energy into those. So for each of those goals, I like to ask these 3 questions. So first one is, what's the first tiny step you can take towards that goal in the next 48 hours? So again, like Shiva was saying, there's all these studies. These are simple little things, but it's the power of psychology. If it's I don't know the actual statistic. I was trying to Google it and I could not find this for the life of me, but I know there is a statistic that people who work towards their goal within 48 hours of inception, so as soon as you have the idea, you set the intention, within 48 hours, take any small step towards it. It doesn't have to be huge, just any small step towards it. The people who do that are like some crazy percentage more likely to actually achieve their goals. And this is because you're basically training your own brain to trust yourself that you're going to work on that goal. You're going to get it done, because why not? You already started. It like sets those neural pathways really early on. So even if it's like, let's say you have some crazy goal to like write a book, even if within those first 48 hours, you just open up a document, title it, save it. Even that is good enough just to get the ball rolling. You have to train yourself that like, okay, I decided I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it. Prove it to yourself. And then also ask yourself how you're going to track your goal and how you're going to stay accountable. So if you were going to make a progress bar for that goal, how would you measure that progress? Just ask yourself that. And then, as we've talked about, make it as public as possible. Share it with your peers, share it with your family. But if you're brave enough, just share it with the public. And also be talking about resources as well. Make sure you're clear about how someone can help you. So let's say you need a certain connection in order to achieve your goal. Put it out into the universe, like actually physically write it, make a social media post, or like, send a text in a group thread, post it in the Emerge group. Make it clear how someone can help you reach that goal. There's this other psychological concept called the helper's high. So even if we see someone making a post and they're looking for something and we have the power to help, it makes us feel like almost like if we help someone succeed, we can take credit for it. Even though we only just did this one small little thing, we feel like proud of ourselves. Like we feel like we can take credit for someone else's success. So really harness that. So people want to help you. They just need to know how. So make sure you're clear and you're public about how people can help you. So this is going to be the last talking point in the breakout rooms. So think about your top like 1 or 2 goals and then discuss what your first step is going to be, how you'll track it and stay accountable, and what kind of resources can help you achieve the goal.
Welcome back, friends. Hi, welcome back. Anybody have any good insight to share? Anything that they wrote down that they want to say out loud?
I'll nominate Tram.
Okay.
Okay, so Lynn helped me with my little goals. It's to second shoot in other states. So if any of you guys have any second shooter opportunities, I would love to come to you.
All right. Love that.
Yay!
I can put you in touch with some photographer partners.
Oh my God, perfect. Thank you.
Are you
Yeah,
a photographer?
Yes, sorry,
Okay,
I'm a
cool.
photographer. I live in
Awesome.
Arizona now. Yeah, last season I shot in Denver, I shot in the Bay Area, I shot in Dallas. So
So exciting.
stranger
What's your business name?
it's a Snap Media.
Cool.
Love that. Anybody else want to share or their like baby step, any insight that they had?
For me, I think the first thing I want to do in the next 48 hours is sit down with this form and like deeply fill it out detailed. Let's do that. Be my first steps.
I love it.
Amazing. I love this. We're already like seeing the power of like the group share coming into fruition. This is awesome. I love this. Yeah, if any of you like are think of like connections, help, or resources that you need, post them in the Emerge group afterwards. Put them in the comments here. But this is amazing. This is what this is all here. What we're all here for. All right. So just to leave us on a productive note, we're going to talk a little bit about how to take action. So Nil took some of the words right out of my mouth, that sometimes having a year-long goal can feel really daunting. So what I find is helpful is to work backwards from your deadline and then break it up into smaller chunks. So if you do have a yearly goal, what's nice about the year is that there are 4 quarters, there's 13 weeks in each quarter, and then there's 7 days in a week. So those are some nice ways to just divide this big daunting task into more digestible, less overwhelming little pieces. So for instance, if you have a goal to redesign and launch a new website by the next year, you could make your quarterly goals related to designing the site, writing the copy, choosing the photos, and launching. And then weekly, you could dedicate your like mindset and your efforts towards those different like tabs or categories or aspects of the website. And then daily, you could like on Mondays and Tuesdays do rough drafts, Wednesdays you do revisions, Thursday you proofread, Fridays you do final touches. That way, like each of these days when you sit down to work at your computer, you're not just like, oh my God, what do I do? Where do I start? You have a little bit of a framework to make it feel a little less overwhelming. And then like Shiva mentioned, visualization is everything. So keep your goals top of mind. When you're done filling them out, hang them somewhere prominent in your home, somewhere where you'll see them every day, whether it's your office or even somewhere super public like your kitchen, so that even just people who randomly enter your home can see them. And you never know who might have like a little valuable resource to help you along the way. You can definitely make a vision board if that's something you're interested in. I have these little like word of the year bracelets that I get with my word of the year every year. So every time I look at my wrist, I'm reminded of like what my theme and my intention is for the year. So whenever I decide to say yes or no to something, I'm, brought back to like, does this align with what I want for my year? Yes or no? So as public and visual as you can keep your goals, the better. And if you haven't shared your goal, but you think you get really clear on them later and you want to share them in the group, just share them with all of us. So
Perfect.
yeah, if you didn't get the PDF, there is the link in this Zoom call. There should be one in your email, but if you're having trouble finding it, you can just go to that link on my website and you can download the PDF from there.
If you're ever in New York, say hi to Lynn, and she's an amazing photographer up near the Hudson Valley. So we just really appreciate you coming out and sharing all of your wisdom with goal setting today. And if you guys have any questions, I'm happy to hang around, or if you want to chat, or thank you guys so much for being here, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everyone.